All right, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Unfiltered Race Fans Only podcast. This is episode 25. We're going to recap the Coke 600 weekend, Indy 500 weekend. It was the debut of Prime's coverage, which everybody's been eagerly anticipating. Uh, Larson had a rough weekend, unfortunately, overall. Rough month, really, but so we'll get into that and then some of the other news out there. NASCAR openly discussing some horsepower additions to hopefully help increase the short track package racing and maybe even bring that to the road courses. So with that, we'll start with what we saw this weekend at Charlotte. So uh, Chip, you were at the race. I watched it on Prime, but you were at the race. From what you saw, because this track, they repaved it ages ago now with that special rubber they don't use anymore with the polymers in it to try and cut down the aging. It feels like Charlotte's finally come into its own the last couple of seasons. What'd you think of it in person, first off, before we get into what we saw for those of us that were watching?
In person, I felt like it was a great race. I know Larson broke out early, and then Byron, once Larson wrecked himself, he took over and was dominant. But there were races throughout the pack that maybe TV or Prime didn't show. There was constant battles side by side, and it didn't seem like you were damned to run the top or damned if you ran the bottom. You could really run anywhere on the track, and it didn't seem like you were necessarily stuck behind somebody. That there were definitely options to run the top or the bottom. I felt like as this track has aged with what they've done to it, I think the racing is better. I think the car is very well suited for the oval and for that style. But great weekend. Charlotte always does it up with the memorial tributes before the start of the race, so that was really good. But the on-track action from what I saw in person was fantastic. You had a car start in 40th, wind up winning the race, and I don't think he fluked into it. He drove up to the win through the field. I saw him come, and there was no doubt that he had a hot rod. Uh, you know, first run, first stage. I think he went from 40th to inside the top 20, knocking them out. And so he had a really fast car. Obviously, he won the race, but I was really impressed with the package and with what the track provided from where I was sitting. I thought that the on track action was great. I don't see how you make it any better than what I saw in person.
Okay. I know for me, watching it on Prime, so if you, I'm just going to take a census. Do the rest of us all watch football on Prime? I'm assuming yes for the Thursday stuff.
Everybody
So
but Chris.
I wasn't too worried about how the caliber of or let's see, the quality of the picture. I was pretty confident it was going to be a good quality broadcast in terms of that and resources. Unlike, when Netflix tried to carry the Paul Tyson fight, that is a concern, obviously, that any sport moving their product to a streaming platform, you got to think about the resource management and how you're going to broadcast it and the bit rate and everything. But I enjoyed what I saw. I thought their pre-race show, their post-race show, and their coverage throughout the race and the weekend was good. I agree, even though I get to, we weren't there at the track. I thought there was racing all over. And I thought that they did a better job showing it. They weren't as zoomed in, like Blake likes to say, on the hood pins or the front two or three cars the whole time. They covered more of what was going on throughout the field, which I think is what many of the fans have been saying they want to see. There's racing all over just because the other guys checked out by, 6, 7 seconds, which happens. That doesn't mean there's nothing happening on track. Show me all the stories because there's different stories for different people's seasons, especially now that we're halfway through to the cutoff for the playoffs, where that was race 13. We're getting ready to transition into that part where people are going to start counting down, and if you're not comfortably in there, you're getting ready to set into panic mode. So um, I was impressed with Chastain's run from the back. He was able to go everywhere. Byron's car seemed like he could go everywhere, but I didn't feel like Byron was unbeatable all night. And I mean, Chastain proved it, but I mean, at each stage, he held off different contenders. He wasn't the most dominant car, but he was definitely the one that didn't step on his dick. When others made mistakes, he just didn't, he didn't, miss the ground ball. He just let him make the mistake and keep on going. So, what do everybody else think?
I think Amazon did a lot better job of picking up uh basically the comment that I thought was amazing that Richard Petty made when he was in the booth at Darlington. He's all, so why aren't we looking at anything that's happening in the back of the pack?
Hmm.
I thought that was, I thought that was amazing that he opened his mouth on television and said that, but
Yep.
it goes to just like you were saying. And Prime did it. It showed battles all over the track, not just the top five, maybe the top 10. It showed battles throughout the entire pack. That that's what happened when we were growing up. It showed what was going on through the entire field. The race doesn't just consist of the top fucking 10 people.
Yep.
So I mean that part I liked. Um I think that the one thing Larry McReynolds kind of brought up, which I thought was really cool, and I think me and Blake have talked about this not just recently, but we've talked about this before. I don't think there needs to always be that much of an emphasis. I think we need to go back to one longer practice session. That practice session basically sums up everything you're going to need to know from a pre-race show. We can get rid of the pre-race show for the most part, although I don't agree with getting rid of the national anthem, the prayer, and the flyover. That I still think should always be part of every broadcast. To get rid of that, I think is stupid. That part I don't agree with what he had to say. But make the focus on after the race, talking to the people that were involved with the shit that happened on the track, and make it a post-race show. We all know
Absolutely.
we've listened to everything leading up to the race all fucking week as fans. The fans that really care know what's going on before that race starts. We don't need another fucking pre-race show to tell us. But
No.
we want to go over and we want to hear about from the people that were part of it what just happened on the racetrack.
Yep. I would agree with that. I think the traditional pre-race where they try and put together stories and narratives, I mean, there's room for some of that, but I think, by having the shortened practices, you miss the lead ups of the teams and what they're working on in the weekend, which 100%. I think a combined practice, a longer practice makes for more lead up going into the race of this one struggled in practice. Did they find anything to make their position better? All right, this one was really fast. Are they gonna carry that speed into the weekend, or did somebody find something, or did they maybe overcorrect and anticipate incorrectly for the weekend? So, um, you know, yeah, the besides the you know Ross Chastain winning was not a total surprise. I mean, he was the fastest car in practice before he wrecked it. He has been really well. Now, I what I would say that makes a surprise for me was with how Trackhouse's performance has been on the season. I was impressed they were able to take their other car that wasn't intended for that weekend and get it to that race winning condition for the weekend without having the practice time under it and just be able to put it together and drop it on the track and go. That was extremely impressive when you consider how inconsistent they've been, minus Ross's improvements race per race, Trackhouse as a whole. So that shows you there's definitely the capability there within the team still. It's just I'm giving SVG a pass because it's his first year in Cup, a lot to learn there. It's maybe not as easy as he thought it was going to be. Uh, but Suarez has got to, step it up because he's had just as much time in those Trackhouse cars as Chastain, if not more, and he's not getting the same thing out of them. So,
I think this will be a shot in the arm, though. I mean, you go
yep,
and you win at Charlotte. That's a tough place to win, and it's a place that you're going to run some similar style tracks. And if you go out
mhm,
there and you've got a good piece, I look for them to be pretty pretty spectacular going into Nashville. I don't see any reason why they won't be towards the front at
yep,
Nashville. But that
Yeah,
was
I
very impressive what they did with the car.
mm,
They talked about how they all stayed up till like 2 in the morning. Ross was in the shop getting fitted for that car, and then for them to turn around and have it ready to run for the 600, that was a total team effort for them to be able to do that, and for it to be as competitive as it was, considering they had no intention of running that car during the 600 at the
yep,
time.
yep. And then the other one that was really impressive was obviously Allmendinger from Colleague. I mean, he was up there all race long. They've had speed all year. I think the addition of Ty Norris continues to show, along with the other additions they've made. But like the refocus, maybe changing from the we're hunting trophies to like a more professionalized Cup Series team, and maybe that's what Ty brought to them was instead of trophy hunting, if you're serious about this and stop wasting your money on having these charters, let's be serious about it and put our best foot forward. I mean, AJ jumped 8 spots in the points this weekend with that performance. That's no small deal, especially when we're getting ready. Like I said, we're at that halfway point. So, and as far as to your point, Chip, I think this is a big race for any team to win because obviously you're in their backyard. It's like the winning in the manufacturers' backyards up in Michigan. Like this is probably one of the most important races to most of the teams because you're right there where they're all at to win. It's the mile and a half of mile and a halfs, if you will. So,
Well, not just Allmendinger, but Nemechek showed speed again.
yep.
He didn't have the finish that he should have had, but he ran up front. He was in the top five a lot of the night.
Hmm.
Ryan Preece again was fast. It's he's got RFK rolling, and there's no way they don't sign him to a long-term contract after how he's run this year.
I was
Yeah,
happy for
and
the
I actually think the best car at the end of the race was actually Brad Kay. If you
yeah.
go back and look at it, he got all the way up to fifth and was catching everybody. And he had a horrible night until the last 100 miles. And he came out and said, he goes, I wish this race was another 100 miles because I think he takes it if it's a little bit longer. But yeah, like Blake was saying, the RFK cars, I mean, they were running great at the end of the night.
Yep. They adjusted to the track well. It didn't swing as big a way as it usually does because it wasn't as hot, a hot to
Yeah,
cold transition like it normally is. But the track did go through a transition, and you saw it with the comers and goers. Felt bad for Hamlin, competitive all night. Team just
he was good all night.
didn't.
Well, and then Blaney gets run over by Suarez,
Yeah,
Well,
pulling
Suarez
three
didn't
wide. I'm
cause
like,
that. The 19 caused that.
well, whoever did, but Suarez was there.
yeah,
Guilt
Yeah,
by
but
association.
if you look at that replay again, Suarez gave enough room. The 19 didn't.
yeah.
Oh, he crowded him up in him.
Oh,
Just a
yeah, that
smidge.
was, yeah.
Well, Blaney, but right now, if
I'd put more of that on the spotter than I would the driver
Yeah.
almost in that
I
situation.
just
That
feel like
Blaney
Blaney's got no
has
luck, no luck at
Blaney has
all.
what, 5 DNFs, and he's still eighth in points.
Yep.
Imagine if he
Yeah.
finishes all five of those races.
Well, that's what stage
Yeah.
points will do for you right there. Like when
Yeah.
he's getting DNF'd, it's at the end. It's usually not at the beginning.
Right.
It's after he's already collected stages. So he's one of those guys that, while I'm vehemently against stage racing from the way it breaks up strategy, you see why it's important to award points throughout. And
Yep.
I'm okay with awarding points throughout the
And,
race, but I want those.
and it's for that very reason that William Byron went 34 behind to 29 ahead of
Yep.
Kyle Larson.
And vice versa when Kyle took the lead. Same thing when
Yeah.
he, wire to wire collected all the mass points he did.
One more driver I want to talk about was having a great night till the motor let go. Carson Hocevar.
Oh yeah.
He
Man,
was
Dude,
tough.
that
look,
was a heartbreaker.
we've got they've talked a lot of smack about him. They've said he's driving over his head, this, that, and the other thing. I think somebody's got in his ear and said, "Look, if you just keep pounding
Chill
the
out.
laps and just focus on the next lap." Larry said it on DVC. I really think Spire gets a win this year, and
Mhm.
I feel like it's Carson. I realize he's got a lot of tough competition. He's got to find a way to beat the Hendricks, the Gibbs, Penske. But if that motor doesn't let go, who says he's not a
It,
Coca-Cola
if
600
you
winner?
look at it, he started side by side with Ross Chastain because he spun out his qualifying lap.
Yep.
So he got up there faster than Chastain and was, mixing it up with him for
Yep.
100 miles probably. He just didn't have just that little bit extra to get past him. So he probably, if the motor doesn't let go, I think we're talking about a Hocevar win and not a Chastain win.
Yep. When he was up there mixing it up with Hamlin and Byron, I was like, come on. I want to see this.
Yeah.
When he was making those dive moves to the inside too, all I kept thinking was, Kyle Busch diving inside of Kurt Busch when Kurt's in the World Cup Miller car and they wipe each other out. Like at any moment, he's going to take the one step over and then they're going to take each other with him. Like,
Man, Thanksgiving's gonna suck.
so that's all I kept seeing as he come in and arc it down low. I'm like, oh dear God, these cars are so loose on the ass end. But yeah, I was enjoying watching him go. It sucked to see him lose a motor because I was looking forward to seeing what he could do because he was fast,
Did
he was contending,
did they ever say was that a shifting error or was that just a
No,
motor?
it
No,
let go. They went back and
Okay.
so was they
Because I
they really
bet you because
talked.
it happened on a restart, right?
Yeah, but with the sequential gearboxes, unless you just go the wrong direction, you're just not gonna you're not gonna grenade one. And they went back and looked at the RPMs. It was not a misshift. It was just
Okay.
that motor's time to go.
That's what I was thinking. So when Larson wrecked out, I was obviously pissed, and I still had on TV, but I was watching a movie with my family, so I was like, kind of. So I've got two TVs in my room there, so I had the race going here and the movie going here, so I was still paying attention. So all I knew was he blew up on a restart, so I wasn't really sure.
well, didn't so we've had a couple Toyota motors now. We've had a couple Fords.
Blaney's lost two.
We had Denny lost one. Didn't didn't Kyle Busch lose one already this year?
No, AJ
AJ,
Allmendinger.
All right, so
AJ, and
Allmendinger. And who does Spire get their motors from? RCR or from because
Hendrick.
Harley
it's a
gets there somewhere else.
Hendrick
Myers
motor.
and Hendrick. Hendrick,
Okay.
yeah, for
So I was
sure.
trying to remember like if their affiliation for motors was which way it went because it seems like everybody's having motor issues, but
I think they're just pushing the limit.
yeah, I think everybody's just pushing it a little bit further as we continue to get down the road with the car. But
This is weird to
Before,
say, but I'm glad to see that because it used
agreed.
to be you would lose two or three engines a race because you knew they were pushing it. You knew they were
Mhm.
trying to get as much out of the motor as they possibly could. And not that I want to see somebody blow up, especially if it's my driver in the lead,
Mhm.
but to know that it is a possibility now. You know, we went, I forget how many races in a row we went without anybody losing a motor. That they talked about it a while back. How
It was almost a year and a half.
yeah,
yeah,
nobody lost an engine. So now that we've seen a couple of them go up in smoke, that tells me we are pushing them. We are, it's not just uh, running at 50% or whatever.
Well, when
I'm
we
actually glad
switched
to know that we're pushing it.
to that two race use policy, I think
Yeah.
everybody was kind of like they backed down their pressure on it. And as wear's been extended, they keep ratcheting it up what they're doing. So
yeah. Because if you go back and you listen to Denny's podcast, he even mentioned that it was either he was told it was either the second or third race they were running on that engine when he blew his earlier this year.
yep. And I'm glad to see it. Like I agree. I don't want to see people having to spend money all the time, but this race, above all, just like Darlington, was built on the premise of it's testing your
And
drivers
machine.
overall. You're testing the machine, the pit crews. It's a total endurance race. Just because we broke it up into four stages, it's kind of taken some of that endurance out of it, but now you're starting to see the endurance come back into it because you've got to you got to stay sharp all night. I think that endurance that, if this was three stages, Byron easily wins it. Obviously, the fourth stage, they took their eye off the ball. They missed, they failed to adjust on the car just enough. They don't want to say that, but I mean that's really what it was. They just didn't quite keep up because they've stayed out front so much. And we've seen other drivers do that too,
But
but Byron notoriously does it more often
the
than not.
fact that there are people on social media blaming Joey Logano for his downfall is just asinine to me.
No, well,
He
we
never
know one
got
of those
close
guys,
enough to
but
Joey. He never got close enough to Joey for
mm-mm,
it to be Joey's fault.
no.
If I could blame anything, it's Reddick's near wreck that slowed him up, that changed the entire night
Yeah, I
when
still,
Reddick came off of
you know,
two and just.
Near wreck, near
I
wreck.
mean,
he
That
did
was
wreck.
that
I
was a
can't.
wreck.
That was a wreck.
I
I
mean, he
Good
wrecked, but
Lord.
he didn't stop. So I mean,
What
Yeah.
I can't believe is at the speeds they're going, and Reddick noses it into the wall, and Byron manages to miss him. And Reddick, like that was some,
that
you got to
Reddick
give,
wreck looked just like Larson in Kansas last year,
yep,
Yep.
or two
you got to
years ago. I
give,
mean,
you got to give Byron his due. Like that was some impressive reaction time to not drive into the side of the 45 right there.
Yeah.
and end his night. So
Uh,
impressive.
you just mentioned endurance, and I have to bring it up. Um, I am hopeful that Larson never tries a double ever again. Um,
Me
as
too.
a
I want
as
Tony's
a
record to stand.
I don't care about the record. As a Larson fan, with Indy 500 starts 45 minutes later than it used to. When Tony Stewart ran it, it started at noon. Race started at noon, not covers. The race started at noon. They were going to go green flag at 12:45, only giving them a 40-minute window, and then it rains. Like, you have to have an absolute perfect race with very little cautions for you to be able to finish the race and then fly to Charlotte. With it starting at 12:45, there's no there. I don't think there's a chance. I don't care how perfect it goes. You're screwed the moment you have two cautions. I just hope he never tries again unless Roger Penske and IndyCar say, okay, we're going back to the traditional start time, and even then, it's as a huge Larson fan, I hope he doesn't try again because it just puts a lot of nerves on your plate for the whole day with what happened last year and now this year. Like I had friends say I'm sorry when he wrecked in Indy, and I said I'm not. Now I'm not worried he's not going to make it to the 600.
Yeah.
And then he goes and he's leading the race, not even 100 miles into the damn race, and he pushing too hard and hits the wall. It's like, dude, just chill the fuck out for one fucking race and stop trying to push so hard. You're not even to your first fucking pit stop and you're hitting the wall.
You have a
I would have
dog in
Leading the
the
loved
race,
to have
prospect.
chill the fuck
seen,
out.
having been there, I would have loved to have seen what he would have had for him had he not wrecked. I really think it would have been
Well, along
Larson,
with the
Byron,
wreck,
Chastain.
though, when he hit the wall, he kept going and he was still running lap times better than Byron. So yes, he did spin out later, but if I'm Cliff Daniels, I'm not touching the car. I think he
No,
made the car worse by fixing the alignment and doing all this other shit. It was obvious he could still drive the damn thing. Just do a wedge adjustment and keep going. But instead, you do six fucking pit stops trying to fix the alignment. You go a lap down, you get it back off the lucky dog. But that's why he was in that mess with Ryan Blaney's wreck because of the six pit stops. Just put tires on it, make a wedge adjustment, and keep going.
I
He
don't
didn't
think
hit the
he was
wall any
right.
harder in 2022.
I,
And
he wasn't quite right. We noticed it. He wasn't quite right. I mean, he was back in the back and he couldn't pass anybody. I get what you're
yeah,
saying on the lap time,
it took him till the
but
sixth pit stop to get the damn toe right.
it wasn't right. And even when they got it fixed, it
Well,
just wasn't quite where
when
it
he
needed
got
to
the
be.
lucky dog, he ran Byron down from about I think about 4 seconds back, and he got to about
I'm
a half a
I'm
second back.
gonna I'm gonna say that he got some help there, and I noticed that because I nudged my wife and I said they're letting Larson get because they let Bubba go. So he had Bubba Wallace passed
Well,
and he had Todd Gilliland passed, and I was as soon as I looked at the scoreboard, I said, "You getting ready to see some teammate bullshit right here," and I
yeah.
called it.
Well,
Son of a gun!
he
He
was
had he
running.
had Todd he had Todd Gilliland passed and he had Bubba Wallace pass, and he let them two go, and Larson got the free pass. And I said, "Well, I
Well,
could have told you that one."
maybe so, but he was running top three lap times when he got to that point. So what I'm saying is the car was good,
Well,
and
I
He
think
got
he
some help.
had a winning car to start the
to
weekend,
to
first
Oh
off,
yeah,
to
to start the race, he had an absolutely winning car.
to my point
because
though, when he spun out, they should have never touched the car, put tires on it, and went. Instead, they they come down pit road several times. Then they came down pit road without it open and start doing this alignment, which means you have to start in the back of the back, not tail end of the lead lap or whatever, just literally the back. And it just put him at a deficit, and that's what put him in that position to be involved in somebody else's nonsense.
well,
And I
I
just
mean,
I understand why Cliff did it, but it's like just put tires on it and see how it goes.
well, of the opinion, like I'm in agreement with you. I don't want to see him do the double again for a while because that was another opportunity at a crown jewel win. It lost him the point lead. He started outside pole. How would that car have run if his sole focus had been just on that race? Would he have spanked him, or would it have been a back and forth battle between 24 and 5 all night and the 11, and then you bring the one into it in the 77? Like, what kind of race do we get then?
I
Um,
honestly think he would have spanked him. He had a second lead on Byron when you know, all the car just got loose. Yeah, I got loose because you're pushing the damn car too hard.
yeah. So, I mean, from that perspective, I just think more the picture as a whole of trying to run the whole weekend. I think post race he said it was just too much in terms of you know commitment, all the different things that go to it. That just doesn't work very well right now with the way the schedule works between the two. Um,
Well, there were people blaming NASCAR for the scheduling. The 600s always started at 6:35.
yep.
Always. It's the Indy 500 that got pushed back. If we're gonna blame anybody on the crunch, it's IndyCar. But
Well,
you
in
want to get
terms of
that West
scheduling,
Coast
so
fan in there too.
this was the last weekend for basically the racing Christmas of the world, where you get Monaco. Don't give a shit. Hadn't been good in a long time, but some people do. Then Indy 500, then the Coke 600. This is the last year you're going to have that for quite some time, because F1 is talking about bringing their race instead of running Monaco. They want to come stateside and compete against the Indy 500. Why? I don't know. They're just super arrogant, I guess. But and where? Not sure. They'll run. There's
Heard,
talk about being up in, I think, Mosport or whatever, up in toward
yeah, I
Canada.
heard Canada.
Yeah, but I mean, I think they're getting out over their skis. You're going to abandon your own crown jewel because your racing hasn't been good because of your own cars to compete with the other two crown jewels. Like, I think that's a mistake on Formula One's part, but I'm not a
Well,
Formula One fan, so I could really care less.
this is an even deeper thought process. The Indy 500 gets more views than anything. I think you got the Super Bowl beats it, and then there's not a whole lot else, right?
Super
There,
Bowl, the
I think
Daytona
they say
500.
we beat the Indy 500, beat the Daytona 500 this year.
Yep.
I do know that they were talking about that. So anyway,
Normally it's Indy
what
last year.
network wants to pick up Formula One to go against the Indy 500? Because if you come to the States or North America or Mexico, wherever they want to wherever they envision running this race, who's going to say, yeah, sure, we'll pick them up, because everybody's going to be watching the Indy. I mean,
Yep.
you might have some diehard Formula One fans. I'm sure there are some, but if you put Indy and Formula One head to head, they're going to smoke them. They're absolutely going to smoke them. So I don't see how you fit all three in. I don't see anybody running in the morning or or anything like that. So I'd love to see how they do that.
Well, the other thing I was thinking about with this is, so you're going to leave your crown jewel and start over where? Like, I don't think it matters where you run. The Formula One has no historical presence tracks in America, with the exception of Indianapolis, which is taken. So where are they going to run that if they wanted to go head to head with Indy or bleed into Indy and NASCAR? Well, you've got the World 600. It has all of this history and prestige. You've got the Indy 500, 120 years of, you know, then you're abandoning Monaco, your crown jewel. I just think it's a mistake from an F1 purist standpoint. If you're an F1 fan, like I would think they're probably upset because, yeah, even though the cars are too big to work at Monaco right now and they
Well,
need to refine them back down,
that's the
so
thing
it's
that
not the
doesn't
problem. The
make
car is
any
the
sense.
problem. So,
2026, the cars are going to be smaller.
yep. So I
So
just
why
think
are
it's a
we
mistake
bailing on it?
because they're eating their own Kool-Aid basically, with what they're doing with the Drive to Survive and all that stuff. They've been high on their own growth for so long. I think they're just thinking they're going to reach out and try and compete.
I'm back. Sorry, my phone overheated.
Uh-oh.
Too hot a topic.
Never knew you were gone.
Yeah. So that's all I wanted to talk about with that from the scheduling standpoint. But back to the prime coverage for the race. So
Speaking of prime coverage, real quick, does that have anything to do with the possibility of who might be watching our show this week on the outfit, the apparel choice for Chip?
I always wear Stewart.
Yep. But yeah, I loved the post race coverage that you had, not just the winner and the winner's crew chief or car owner, but you also had second place, you had third place, and that they didn't try and cram it into this tight window. I think what Prime is going to show, especially if it does well, and the only downside is we're stuck with the current TV deal for 7 years.
Yeah, I
But
gotta wait six and a
that
half years to hope that Prime takes over the whole season.
yeah, I would like to see Prime become the primary broadcast for all of it. Just they get the
Yeah.
whole thing.
I
And
I
Fox and
mean,
NBC can partner with them to work with them together and like they can rebroadcast it on their airwaves. But if you want, but the primary coverage would always be on Prime because then you're not bound to TV windows, but not having to fit into this square. I can give you better post race. I can give you better pre race. I can do more side by side because I can work my advertising partners in differently. Um, there
You
it
hear?
just gives you so much
uh,
more. And the quality of the picture I thought was better. Their 4K picture was better, just like the football is. The sound, I read where some people said the sound sounded better, which makes sense
they
because
had mics all the way around the racetrack.
and you can push more sound through streaming than you can through native cable. Coaxial cable has a limited band rate. Fiber optics does not have the same kind of band rate and restrictions and the data centers and everything. It's just they're ahead in so many ways.
I got something for the Prime deal. Is I read and it's true. I remember seeing it. 75 laps. The last 75 laps. No side by side. No commercial break at all. Just straight racing. Beautiful. And
Mhm.
only streaming can do that.
Yep.
Um, and and all night long, never having to wonder what's going on track because they were side by side if they did go to commercial break. The only time you had full screen commercial was during a caution, and that's how it should be. And there's no reason Fox, NBC, TNT, there's no reason you can't do the legwork and make it happen to where you can do the same thing. I'm hopeful they're seeing that.
Hey, you,
And
you
what'd you say?
go ahead.
I think your
I
phone's
was
still
gonna, I
over.
was, I was gonna let you finish your thought. And
That's it.
I
I think his phone's
can
still
hear you.
overheating
Can you hear
though.
me all right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
your phone was getting too hot again because it seemed like you were getting glitchy. But the one thing I was worried about with Prime, I'll say, NFL Thursday night football is blue as can be. Like I feel like my whole TV is blue watching football Prime. Like I'm like, oh my God, it's so much blue. I didn't feel like that with NASCAR. That was my one thing I was
I
worried about
agree.
because Amazon blue and everything. I was hoping it would be, well balanced color presentation, and it was. It was great.
I think there were a lot of people worried about it. They were, oh man, I've got to pay for a subscription service. Well, most people already are anyway, DirecTV, Charter, Dish, whatever. I actually would love if I could just buy NASCAR. And I know it's a
Same. I'm
pipe
with
dream,
you.
but if I could have like a Flow subscription or whatever, I'd call DirecTV so fast and tell them to shove it, it wouldn't even be funny.
Right.
If I could just pay to watch NASCAR, I don't care if it's 14, 15, $20 a month, whatever. I thought it was great. Think about what's going to happen, if what could happen. No time constraints. No, well, we got to be off the air by 6 o'clock because the football game's about to start. Prime doesn't care. They don't have to worry about a time constraint. I think that is beautiful. The only constraint you would have to worry about is maybe a town's noise ordinance of some sort. But as far as, oh boy, if we don't get rolling, we're going to have to swap over because the baseball game's about to start. You will never have to worry about that with Prime. And I love the post race coverage. I I don't see a downside. I would love for Prime to have it all year long. I think it would
And,
be great. But fingers crossed that we can move towards that direction. I think we can we can figure out a way to get the people that were negative towards it, towards a subscription service. Well, I don't want to pay for something else. It's Prime. Whether, I mean, the free shipping alone covers you. I mean, really, it's not that bad. I
not to
think
mention they did a month free. They have a month
exactly
free right now, and that's the entire schedule. So
that
stop complaining.
you could absolutely do that. So I think hey, that's brilliant marketing. Hey, we'll give you a month for free. You get to watch racing, and you can use your free shipping and get to see if you want to keep us or not.
That's
I
literally what they're
don't
doing right now.
I don't see a downside. I mean, really, you cannot stomp your feet and go, I'm not paying for a subscription. You don't have to right now. If you don't like it after the 30 days, can't call them, cancel them. I loved it, and I wish we would go more in that direction. And if they want to simulcast it on a Fox, on an NBC, on a TNT, on a whatever, whoever winds up with the package, if you could just own Prime, watch the whole season, sign me up.
And with the Prime thing, I wanted to throw out there that Carl Edwards has been a breath of fresh air. His insights
Yes.
have been amazing. I was never a Carl fan, but man, he brings a total different perspective on the. I was hoping he'd be in the booth. He's not in the booth, but what he's doing is phenomenal, and I'm here for it.
Well, the
Yeah, I
joy was
really
pretty good.
enjoyed having him and Corey and Danielle Trotta. Like, I feel like they got the perfect, all the best of all the different groups when you did this. You got Dale Jr. and his enthusiasm and his stuff. You got the super technical knowledge of Steve Letarte. You got the seasoned broadcaster knowledge of Adam Alexander, but he lets you, take the play if you're ready to make it. He doesn't necessarily step on you. You've got Danielle Trotta, who I've always enjoyed listening to. Um, and now Corey, who's fresh out of this car, Carl, another fan favorite. Like, I just feel like you've got all these great people. You got Trevor Bain. Like, I feel like they've got a very well-rounded, dynamic group of people for their 10 race stretch between Prime and TNT because it's the same group for both, as far as I know. So I just think like they've got the right, like the perfect mixture in there for sure of everybody. So
Can you guys hear me right now?
yeah.
Yep.
So I had his idea, and that's what I was trying to say a minute ago. Other than I think my phone was still screwed up. We need to. I know we don't have very many listeners on here, but start the campaign with the blue Prime. Make Prime. Use the blue Prime primary. Make Prime primary.
Make
Yep.
Prime primary. All right. I like it. Make Prime primary.
He actually had a good idea, Alan.
That's
One
one.
one
Just
time, just
one.
one.
Michael Brown
Hey,
do it too.
it only takes one, motherfucker.
It only takes one.
And there it goes.
So the other thing this weekend that I wanted to definitely touch on, just because of the rumors thing, and I just wanted to see what everybody's opinion was, especially Mr. B-Rads there. Do you think there's any truth to after all of the shenanigans at Indy with Roger owning the IndyCar series that uh he basically had a meeting and told the Cup guys, whatever, tricks you got up your sleeve, this is not the weekend to try that shit out.
Yeah.
Take it back out because we don't need to
Well,
make any noise.
all the eyes were on him.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you'd be stupid to try it again. But I mean, I get it. He's trying to keep his legacy, whatever. But I get that he had to do it. But everybody cheats until you get caught.
Mhm.
It's part of it. Always has been part of it. Always will be part of it. Everybody pushes it to the line. There's nothing wrong with that. That's just part of it. But
Well, I remember Brad saying, I want to say it was Brad from when he was with Penske, and some of his interviews said like, he would bring up something that other teams were trying, and Roger would shoot him down and be like, "We're not going to do that. We're
yeah,
going to win straight up all the time." So I'm not saying they don't cheat, but they probably are. If they do, they're probably not as egregious as some others, but maybe they are. I don't know.
They all bend the rules somewhere
Right.
along the line. They bend them somewhere.
But I know Penske from what you hear from Rusty, from what you hear uh from Brad and his time there, it seems like they were very hesitant to do anything. But I think it's also very telling, so I didn't think
I,
about it when I was looking
I,
at it, not just this weekend, but you've got the IndyCar stuff that was on the cars this weekend was also on the winning car last year, was also some other issues they've had. So like they've had issues for a while as a whole. And when that starts to add up. And then earlier last week we had or was it that? No, it was Chip Ganassi was the interview, not this week, but last week, right? Yeah.
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 Yep.
So when he did the interview with DJD, he all but said, I mean, him and Ganassi are fierce rivals, but also best friends. He's like, above all, like his team above all should be beyond reproach. Like they should be perfect.
Yeah, those are Harvick's.
It was a great interview if anybody hasn't listened to it, by the way. But I mean,
and that,
wait it out. If you own
I
this,
would,
yeah, go ahead,
I,
Chris.
w- I wouldn't go as far as to saying that that Penske and them have never pushed the issue, because I remember it was just a few years ago where uh, they never outright said exactly what the teams were doing. But I know Kyle Busch was one of them, but Brad and Joey were two huge ones that they were like, you know what? When you're done with the qualifying lap, quit swerving down the back straight to reset the rear end.
That
Mhm.
and the other thing that Joey and Brad were notorious for in the Gen 6 era was the uh, deliberately bumping into things into the panels during a
Yep.
pit stop to push in the fenders.
You just muted, buddy.
So,
You muted, maybe. I can hear him.
no,
I do think that for the 600, they probably did say, look, we need these cars to be legal, 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 legal. Because let's just say uh, Cindric goes out and wins the race. They do the burnout and he's celebrating, and what a great day it is for Team Penske. And then 2 o'clock in the morning, you find out Cindric's been disqualified because something was
yep.
illegal on the car.
And Joey
You
was
want to
just
talk about
disqualified a couple of weeks ago anyway. So,
you want to talk about you want to talk about not having any credibility. I would say that there had to be something said to all three crew chiefs and car chiefs. Look, you guys might have to struggle tonight, and if we struggle, and they did, I think
oh yeah.
Logano finished 17th, and
It
they
was
were
bad
not
all night.
they were not very good all night.
No.
The 2 car was way off the pace. The best
I
car I think they had was the 21.
Yeah, after Blaney
I
went.
I think they conceded the Coke 600. I know that sounds kind of weird, but I really do feel like they went into that race saying we cannot have anybody pointing at us tonight. Let's get the hell out of Charlotte and go get them in Nashville.
No,
Yep.
I don't think it's crazy at all. I think that's spot on. I mean, to me, if I just had the finger pointed at me over some and was guilty of doing it, and knowing everybody's watching me, I'm damn sure not going to try to push the edge or the envelope on something right when everybody's looking right at me. I mean, that's just dumb to do that. So I
Well,
wholeheartedly think he said, "Hey, it is what it is. It's going to be a rough race. Deal with it. We'll get past it. Move forward." I completely
so,
agree with
so,
what you're saying.
so Brad, I gotta ask you, Brad. You're the Penske fan here. You're the owner that you like owns owns the series, owns a high quality team, owns the racetrack. Do you personally think that that is a problem with owning the series and having a team? Because we're about to talk about somebody that owns NASCAR wanted to bring in a team to run at Sonoma, and they got shot down. Do you see Roger having to pick between one or the other at some point?
I think that at some point in time, a person can have too many irons in the fire. And I think that's a great example of that. I think it's when you stretch yourself out like that too far, I think you get too much power, you get too much control, and it's just not going to be as good of a product. So I do think at some point in time, something's got to give, or pick one or the other, or maybe narrow that down some, because I don't think that one person should have all that under one umbrella, so to speak.
Well, I'm in agreement with you on too many irons in the fire, and I say this because, all right, in that time, Chip Ganassi has sold his NASCAR interests and focus solely on what he's got now in the IndyCar side. And since then, he's won the 21, the 23, and the 24 IndyCar championships, and he just won the Indianapolis 500. Now, his teams were always good with Dixon, don't get me wrong, but they had kind of taken a step back to where they were before. Since then, he's really elevated his team to another level with Pelot and, just so
Below has won 7 of the first 8
yeah, I mean
races.
they're on a roll, but I mean more importantly to the point of too many irons in the fire. I think that's a prime example of Chip took a step back where he was before dividing his time between the two, and he could win in both, but not consistently in both all the time. Now that it's his sole focus, I mean, he's damn near unstoppable. So his phone must have overheated again. We lost him.
Oh no.
So with I just mentioned it. I figured we can go ahead and roll into it.
Yeah, we can roll into that. So I saw that article.
So who was it? Is it Phelps or
Jim France, the
Jim France
CEO
wants
of
to
NASCAR.
bring in a single car effort through Spire to run his IMSA driver,
Yep.
and the teams said no.
Yep.
I personally think I know you're probably going to be blown away here. I think that's horseshit. If Roger Penske can do it in IndyCar, you're not going to allow him to run one race.
Well, I think the difference is the teams already had the charter agreements. So for somebody to come in, you've got to get their buy-in. There's probably some
That's
language
not
I
a
would
charter.
assume. No, but I'm assuming there's somewhere in the charter agreement that has to do with how outside entities can join the sport. We
And
don't
isn't
need to
that
do it.
how Castroneves ran Daytona this year?
Yep.
Is with the charter.
Yes, but
No.
it wasn't. But
No.
Castroneves wasn't funded by the guy who the France family that's running NASCAR.
He might be.
So I mean, he might have been.
Well, I know
I
that was a
really
track
didn't.
house car.
There's not a lot
Well,
of information out there about it other than basically it just
it fell apart.
fell apart.
It fell apart, and it's like, I'm sorry. I've heard that basically the teams threw their arms up in the air and basically said no, not happening. But I I think that I wouldn't have saw the harm in letting Spire run the car because every other team does this. When Hendrick wants to try out a driver later on, he's going to have Spire put a fourth car out and have that, let's say, Corey Day run the race.
Well,
It's no different. I don't see the I mean,
the only issue I think comes back to the same issue Roger Penske has. And right now, NASCAR, if NASCAR and that Jim France's NASCAR puts a guy in the race, NASCAR owns the officiating body also. So for all intents and purposes, NASCAR could tell Spire, if you give my guy the best stuff and we're going to look the other way on whatever you want to try, we can do this for you. Like there's nothing anybody can do to stop it or would know about it if it doesn't get out. Where because Roger Penske was already the owner of the series when he created the charters, they were able to, as teams, vote on how that stuff was handled. NASCAR never owned a charter or had a dog in the fight. They were just the series owner. So I can see why the teams would be up in arms about it. The only way I would be okay with it, and I don't remember which podcast said it or which article or tweet, but I would be okay with it if NASCAR transitioned to a truly independent officiating body that wasn't owned by NASCAR. It was a true third party. Then, you know what, Jim France, you want to bring in one of your IMSA guys and you're going to fund it through Spire? Have at it, because it's going to get looked at by a third party anyway. And it's either going to be on the up and up or it's not. And that same rule would apply across the board. But if I'm the owner of the series, I'm in control of the inspections and getting the car parts signed off and everything else. I do think there's too many thumbs on the scale there compared to what goes for any other team.
It's just weird. I'd like to know what were they trying to do? So you're going to run a car that's basically going to be a forced fire car with a guy that has done a lot of your testing and is an IMSA driver. It doesn't make a lot of sense because it wasn't a deal where Trackhouse went out and got SVG to go out there and be a ringer
Yeah.
for one race to where where he wound up winning, or it didn't make a lot of sense to me as to what their in game goal was. Let's say they passed it, they got it, or they made it work. Even if the guy goes out, dominates, and wins the race, he's not a champion. He's not going to be. He wouldn't get a playoff waiver or anything like that. So I don't know. Even if they had a souped up, tricked out car, what exactly the point would be? Ooh, look what we did. Look what NASCAR did. Well, it just didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And if they wanted to put the driver in a car and say, hey, we want to put our driver in a Ford Spire car, okay, so be it. But them trying to say it was gonna be NASCAR's team, it just was kind of head scratcher there because again, you could have got this guy in a ride. You want him in a car, tell him Trackhouse that we'll give him the guaranteed start. Tell Spire he'll get a guaranteed start. I'm sure he'd get a ride if they really wanted him to. The phrasing of NASCAR's team through Spire is kind of what threw a wrench in it to me.
Yeah. I was trying to think of different ways I could or analogies for it. And I mean, really, the best analogy would be like the NFL. If Roger Goodell decided to field a team all of a sudden and he went and cherry picked the best people and said, okay, I'm just going to drop them into the NFL playoffs. Hold on now.
Yep.
What? No, that's not going to happen. The rest of us all had to play X number of games and you're just going to drop a person in here. And at the halfway point of the season, with points being so tight as they are between basically 14th all the way down to 28th, I don't think that, especially the sanctioning body, should be dropping anybody into the race on their own dime. I don't care if you field it through Hendrick or through one of those random four charters that they just hold. I don't think that's right.
Yeah, it would have been odd for sure.
Yeah. So let's see. What'd you think about the racing for the rest of the weekend before we move on?
Boy,
I didn't watch any of the Xfinity race.
we pick on Larson for saying he steps on his dick a lot. The king of that has to be Justin Allgaier. Dude had that race won.
Yep.
And I mean, Allgaier probably, if you look at this season, Allgaier probably should have 8, 9 wins. I mean, they have JRM and that 7 bunch have been that good.
Yep.
If he pits, does he get hung behind traffic by people that stay out? Probably. I still feel like if he comes down pit road, puts 4 fresh tires on it, worst case, he might have been 5 or 6 guys stay out. He winds up winning the race.
Well, I mean, Byron beat him because he had pressure tires. So
exactly. So, now would Byron have stayed out because the leaders pitted? Who knows, right?
Yeah.
I've always heard them say, "Damned if you do, damned if you don't." Leader comes down pit road, you stay out. Leader stays out, you come down pit road. You don't know who would have done what. Having said that, not to sound like a great big Allgaier fanboy, but I swear he ought to have 4 or 5 more wins, but they just can't, for some reason, either a pit road speeding penalty, not listening to your crew chief, whatever you do, it just, for some reason, Allgaier just cannot get to the checkered flag first,
Yep.
even with the fastest car.
Yeah, I was surprised by their call because tires did seem to matter more than they used to. Um, preserving your equipment mattered. Uh, you know, and so I expected him to pit with how many were left and how many laps had been on there, but yeah, they said it was. I heard the audio. I agree, it wasn't very clear what they were saying. It did kind of sound like it was not clear as to like pit here, don't pit or whatever. So I don't think he deliberately did it and like no, you don't know what you're talking about. I think he probably just didn't hear him clearly, which I mean they step on each other on the radio all the time, so that happens. But yeah, I mean I agree. Allgaier has definitely thrown away quite a few wins this year. Either the team has or he has, or a combination of both, where I would have expected more wins now that he's gotten that championship off his back. So.
And in the truck race, I know we don't, it gets kind of overshadowed a lot, but Corey Heim, how much longer is he going to have to wait to move up? I know he had to deal with Ty Gibbs. We get that. But man,
Well,
they
he's
showed
got a deal
stats
with 2311 now, so he'll be in Nashville this weekend.
they
I
showed
have
the
a
stats
feeling.
and
I just have a feeling he's going to
he
replace Riley Herbst. Just have a feeling that's going to
But
happen.
how? If what we know is true, the Herbst group,
Yeah.
how is he going to be replaced?
Well, that's also obviously contingent on whatever happens with these charters and the legal thing, assuming
Yeah.
they do well on the. So who knows? But I could see him replacing Riley, and then Riley maybe not necessarily going somewhere else within 2311, but just going somewhere else within the garage. I mean, there's still other spots that I think Riley could fit to.
they threw up his numbers against Kyle Busch for the first. It was either 75 or 100 Truck Series races, and the guy is ahead of him in top tens through. I think it was 100 through 100 truck races. He's ahead of Kyle Busch in top tens through 100 races. He's tied with him in top fives through 100 Truck Series races, and he's 2 wins behind Kyle Busch through 100 Truck Series races. I mean, that's pretty spectacular
And
stats
and really, if you
when
look at that, if you look at Homestead, and if you look at Wilkesboro last week, he's tied with
he'd
him.
have him. Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely. No doubt,
And
no
it's
doubt
not like
about it. I
he's in
mean,
the best team or like a JGR funded team. Like the Truck Series
yeah,
teams are all
no.
fairly, there's strong pockets throughout. So,
yeah. His teammates in the Truck Series are crap, and he goes out and spanks the field every week.
yep,
So it's
Scott
definitely him.
Zipadelli. Scott Zipadelli too. I don't think enough credit gets given to him
no,
because
Yeah,
definitely not.
Scott's pretty good.
I'm partial to obviously Greg Zipadelli and all the success that he had with Tony, but Scott's no slouch when it comes to being a crew chief either. He knows what he's doing on top of that box too.
So this one caught me off guard. We just had that awesome race at Rockingham and it's up for sale. Like,
Yep.
what the heck?
I was going to bring that up in a little bit.
I just I don't understand what's going
So,
on there.
so what's apparently happened is they're not getting funding from the state like they would like. They've requested it, and the state's basically saying the hell with you. So they think that maybe, say, an ISC or an SMI would have better luck at getting that funding,
Okay.
or whoever. So unfortunately, I don't see ISC or SMI buying that track. I think we're going to see it disappear again. I hope
Which
I'm
is
wrong.
a shame considering all the work they did to it. And then we just had that fantastic race and we just talked about whether or not.
And also, I think that goes along with this, the schedule's being worked right now. I guarantee you, NASCAR told them you're not getting cut next year, and they said, you know what? Nope, they're not going to stick it out. I think it has to do with they're working on next year's schedule, and they probably told them, no, you're not getting a cup race. It'll be just like this year. You did great, but let's see how year two goes, and they just don't want to see it out.
Could be, could be. You're
And I don't think anybody will touch it. If you're Marcus and his bunch, are you going to go buy a track knowing that NASCAR's not going to give you a cup race? No, probably not.
Well, there's the
Did it?
thing. NASCAR doesn't have to give it to them. They have to just rearrange their thing. Just like when they bought Wilkesboro to put Texas and New Hampshire on the schedule, that's that's the whole point. So they have, which they own Kentucky, as we all know. I bitch about that all the time. They own Kentucky Speedway, and it's sitting there, just sitting there. Every other track they own has a race or two. So unless they're willing to give up a race at Atlanta or Charlotte or Bristol, is there another track that has two races? I don't I
And they
don't
won't.
think
They
so.
won't do it.
not that I
They
can
won't
think
They're
do
of.
it.
not going to do that. So it's SMI is not buying that track. It would
No.
have to be ISC, and then at the same time, do you get rid of a Darlington? No. Do you get rid of a Kansas? No. So you've got limited ways of putting a race there. They're not going to do it. It's not going to happen.
No, and with it being where it's at in the market, like you don't take a race from I just don't think they would oversaturate the area either, unfortunately, because if you were going to take a race, let's say SMI bought it, I would love to see him take the race from Texas personally, because Texas has been awful for quite a while.
Well, the
Um,
thing is the area is so oversaturated. It
yeah,
is. You have
you got Bowman
you
Gray.
have you have Bowman Gray, North Carolina. You have Wilkesboro, North Carolina. You have Charlotte, two races there. Then you have two races in South Carolina. You have six races just there, and then you have three. Sorry, you have a race in Richmond, two,
Bristol too.
Two
three
Bristol,
races in
two,
Tennessee.
Martinsville.
two
So
Martinsville.
yeah, that's what I was trying to get at. Two Martinsville. You have 15 races in that just right there in that small little circle. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not going to happen.
No. No, unfortunately, probably not.
And Dover is really not far from there either.
Yeah, but they already gave up one of their dates, so
Right. And they're using that for Nashville.
Why can't SMI buy it and get rid of one of the fucking Vegas dates?
That's what I
Good
just
luck
said.
with that. Good luck with that.
They're
They
not going to
love
get rid of the
Vegas.
Vegas date.
No, Vegas ain't going anywhere.
Which
Vegas
really
is in
doesn't.
talks.
Which I mean, I would honestly, I would myself would honestly rather see the championship race come to fucking Vegas and just focus on going down one time, because they never pack that fucking place. They never pack that racetrack. The teams love it because there's shit to do when they go to Vegas. The fans that do show up love it because there's shit to go do while you're in Vegas. But that's one thing that always bugged the fuck out of me about the shit with Phoenix getting the championship race. Well, because we're taking seats out. We're doing well. No, so you NASCAR played both ends to the middle. We're taking the championship race to Phoenix because they sell out. But no other race throughout the year do we give a fuck about anybody that shows up at the racetrack. We want you to watch it on TV. Well, you can't have it both ways.
yeah.
And honestly, I think Vegas is great racing, but we really don't need to go there twice, in my opinion. And and that's the closest racetrack to me. And I don't think we need to be going here twice.
No, I would take Vegas' spring race and give it to Rockingham.
No, I would
That's
take it to Kentucky.
Well, for Kentucky or in Chicagoland, I would get rid of the Chicago street course and give
I
that
didn't
back
See,
to
trash.
them.
and I know I said this earlier
And
or in
honestly, I would
another
get rid of Texas
early
and let it just sit and age
filming.
for a while.
Uh, I I really don't see them re-upping Coda because of the fact that they've let Kentucky sit for so long. Coda's at the end of their contract, and there hasn't been any rumor of anything of it being re-upped. So I'm hopeful that that means Kentucky's getting their date back, but I don't think they are. I'm just hopeful.
We'll see.
So All-Star Day,
somebody please give Kentucky a race back so we can just shut this guy up for once.
Hey, he's not wrong on that.
No, I
Hey, I
know.
want the
I
Kentucky
know he's
race
not,
too.
but you don't cry about it every damn episode.
I just
I'm
do it.
going
I
to.
do it internally.
He cries in
So,
the shower like a real man, Blake. You learn.
So the last
I beat my
I want
head
to
up
go
against
there.
the wall. Is that the same thing?
Yeah. The one guy we
You do the
overlooked in
All-Star
the
race?
coat was the Eric Jones. We talked about JHN, but also Eric Jones. He did well. He's also been right there with him. But Jimmy can't get out of his own way, and for God's sakes, I wish he would stop running cars. But
Yeah.
you got out too early. That's your
Was
fault. It's too late
was
to
that
come
it?
back now.
Do you think that was it? By the way,
I hope so. He was in front of Larson about 5 to 7 cars in front of Larson. It took him 4 tries to finally wreck that car. I saw him sideways so many times. I'm like, I actually said this out loud. Just wreck the thing already.
Yeah,
And
I knew.
finally, the next time he got sideways, he was done. He cannot control these cars. He is ruining his legacy. He's an Hall of Famer, we know, but just stop. He is making himself look worse than Darrell Waltrip, and that is saying something.
I think it had to do with sponsorship, though. I almost feel
Yeah.
like he doesn't want to, and I might be wrong, but I honestly feel like When they went to Toyota,
Carvana
Toyota
to
said,
show that
"Great."
they had trashed race cars that badly.
I think it was a we'll sponsor you, we'll give the team money, but we got to put you in a car for a couple of races. And even though he's run just
Kind of like
terribly,
Dale Jr.'s deal where he runs a certain number of races and other
I think that's exactly what it is. I think it was part of the deal. We'll come sponsor your team, John Hunter and Eric, but you got to run the car twice.
But you never
Well,
see Carvana on any of their cars.
that doesn't mean the check wasn't fat.
I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. We'll
Thank you
take
for
the
running our
mutual
car into the wall. You're the best.
and then the associate sponsors in the back end. So I think that's it for this weekend and the other
Well,
news.
do we want to do the All-Star race real quick?
Well, that's what I was
Well,
gonna say.
can I bring up one other thing? You got to talking about Jimmy and his poor performance. I
Yeah.
kind of want to touch on something. I brought it up with Blake a little bit earlier on the phone, but I'm really kind of disappointed in Freddie Kraft's take this week on Cletus.
Okay.
He made the comment on this week's episode, or maybe it was last week's episode. Actually, I'm trying to get caught up on some of that shit because we had that wedding last week. But made a comment about Cletus not necessarily belonging in the car because of the restart where he wrecked the car off the front, being on the front row.
But who's never done that?
Well, see, but
Everybody's done that.
No, I get it. But my point goes back to even with like Catherine Legge. I think everybody deserves the opportunity to be on the track, but at least Cletus, if you go back and look at his finishes and where he runs, is halfway decent, is halfway competitive. And when he did that, he got out of the race car and says, "You know what, guys? I fucked up."
Yeah.
I've never once heard Cletus get out of the car or Catherine Legge get out of the car and say that. She got out and said the same thing everyone else was.
Well,
Well,
she's
I left
perfect,
him.
Chris.
Well, no, but the same thing goes back to the kid in the 5 car.
Chris Wright.
Yeah, Chris Wright.
Oh,
Yeah.
The same shit with him.
Yeah.
He got out. He's never got out and said, "Oh, you know what? You guys are right. I fucked up." It's
Yeah.
always somebody else's fault. At least
Yeah.
Cletus had
I
balls
made
enough
a
to get out.
mistake. I'm in over
Yeah.
my head.
Yeah.
You
He
know,
said, I didn't take into account that these cars were unrestricted because the last race I ran was at a restrictor plate track. And when I got on it, I spun the tires. That's exactly what he said. He goes, "That was my fault."
Yep.
I thought, I just thought that was a shitty take from
And that
Freddie's point
comes
of
from
view.
experience. And if I'm going to hold it against him, then I have to hold it against the rest of them who pay to play to be there. And how many times have we seen, back when Corey was getting started and he was the perennial caution when he was back in the 32 car in the back or the BK cars or the same thing with
Even by Bowman.
Trips,
Bowman was the
brother,
same
and
way.
those guys, like they all make mistakes.
Well, what about
What's the
what was it? Mark Martin at Talladega swerving back and forth on the warm-up laps, and what he hit
Yeah.
Johnson before the race even
They hit
started.
fucking Jimmy. Yeah, the steering locked
You know
up.
what I'm
and
saying?
fucking
But the
took
point
both
is,
of
I mean,
them out.
that's a Hall of Famer right there. Everybody fucks up.
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
Yep.
it's
all
part
you
of
have to
it.
do is go look at this weekend's Indy 500. Scott McLaughlin
Oh my
wrecked the
god,
car under fucking
Is that a
caution,
Penske driver?
warm-up
Wait,
laps.
that's a Penske
it probably
driver.
was.
Right?
It was actually me. It was me.
And that guy is a champion, a world-class driver. Okay, so you're telling me he doesn't belong in IndyCar based on Freddie's logic? He doesn't belong in IndyCar.
Nope.
So was it
There's
Larson or
no-
the spotter that said, "What a fucking idiot"? I think it was a spotter, wasn't it?
Yeah, it
Spotter
wasn't
said it,
Larson.
and then
I didn't think it was
did
Larson. I was like, that don't sound like him. I think it was a spotter.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not wrong. That's pretty dumb.
Well, it is Tyler Mon. He doesn't. Tyler Mon doesn't mix words. This is the same guy that said, you know why he keeps doing that? Because you let him.
Yeah.
Tyler Mon's lucky to have a fucking job at this point, truthfully. But
Yes, he is.
um,
Last year when he said that about Hamlin, and Kyle said, "Shut the fuck up." That was fucking nuts.
No, the
But
problem
yeah,
is he
I
wasn't
agree.
wrong though.
He
He
wasn't
wasn't
wrong.
wrong, but it's not his place to say it.
But yeah, that's a dumbass take. Okay, so you made a mistake, so now you don't deserve to be in the car. You made one mistake. Like you're basically using that same logic against anybody else, and they all make mistakes. You miss a shift, whatever. So
I just
Go
hope
before.
Bubba does it soon so we can go out. I guess Bubba needs out of the car.
Does
Yeah.
it soon? Bubba's done it plenty to be able to use that fucking that
Well, I mean, the first few years of Dakota, he couldn't miss that inside wall exit in the chicane. He clipped that motherfucker several times, destroying the car.
Oh, you mean
Not only destroying
Rebel?
Larson on the front stretch in fucking Vegas, but then going and almost beating the shit out of him on the front stretch right afterwards.
I mean, he could have killed him by doing that.
And then get out not knowing if that kid's fucking hurt and you start pushing him around.
Yeah, he's a bitch anyways.
Yeah.
Yep. So
Sorry,
Right.
he's a bitch.
that's okay. We said unfiltered.
Sorry, not sorry.
Yeah.
But we said we were unfiltered. So
Yeah, it's also the same guy that couldn't decipher the difference between a noose and a pull rope in a garage.
All right,
Well,
we're done.
all right, now we're getting
Thank
canceled. Here we go.
And we're off the air.
Thanks a
I don't
lot,
care. You blame
Brad.
me. I'm the one that said it. I don't care.
All right. So before we get cut off completely and we're done forever, we'll just be doing this for ourselves, which I think we are now. The All-Star race. Overall, just like quick synopsis. What'd y'all think? I thought the racing overall, like easily the best short track race we've had all year. The tires wearing, I think the combined practice helped with that a lot. It reminded me kind of like Bowman Gray, like if you just let them run the tires to the point by not having the guaranteed stop point and not messing with the strategy, you allowed the tires to fall off where they were supposed to. And that shows you what the problem is with the stage cautions. I don't think any of the broadcasters really talked about it, or the shows the week following really talked about it. But to me, that was the biggest takeaway, that the lack of a stage break or a forced caution
Yeah, what did y'all think about that promoter's caution?
allowed everything to fall
Well,
off where
Ryan
it
Blaney
should
loved it.
to put strategy back in. So,
Yeah.
Ryan
Michael
Blaney
Waltrip's
loved
an
it.
idiot for throwing the flag, being a goofball. That to me
Whoops.
was the worst thing that you could have for Fox to end their coverage like that. I thought they looked idiotic, which I mean they do anyway. But
Yeah.
it
So we
just
were
further,
there. We
yeah.
we were there. I got to double down. Actually, I told everybody I'm at a racetrack 3 out of 4 weekends. We went to the All-Star race, did the 600, taking this weekend off. Get to go see Metallica, but anyway, taking
Okay.
this weekend off.
Hey, man, thanks for
Next,
the invite.
well,
Okay. You
come
I mean,
on.
I have seen him twice.
And then we're going to Bristol next weekend for the Thunder Valley Nats.
Okay.
Great racing. I mean, and I honestly think that place is only going to get better with time as it ages. I really think that place is going to be slick. I've heard a lot of folks say, well, I think they deserve a 400 lap points race. If they do, great. If they do, fantastic. But I hope that, you can already renew your tickets for next year for the All-Star race. So that tells me they're coming back for the All-Star race. I think everything about that, the atmosphere, man. Yeah, it was packed. It was a sellout. I was there, buddy. I can tell you, it was a packed house. It's a totally different feel. So going from Wilkesboro to Charlotte, it almost felt like you went from a backyard burgers and dogs meal to a fine dining restaurant with a 600. It was a totally different feel, a lot more laid back, and I really racing was fantastic there too. I forget how many laps side by side Keselowski and Logano were for the lead. I mean, it felt like forever that they raced side by side. So
And
the
once
gimmick
again,
caution, Fox is going to be Fox. And they say it was the promoter's caution. I think that was a Fox deal. I really do. I think they're so hell bent on that game 7 last minute goal line stop touchdown drive. They've got to have it. They can't stand for a leader to be 4 or 5 seconds out in front. I swear
for sure can't stand it.
but they will not let a race play out naturally. And look, would I have wanted to take my seat loose and throw it across the fence if Logano won? Yeah, I would. But the dude deserved it. Had the best car there all night. But I swear they have to have a gimmick. They have to do something. They just won't do it. I would have loved to have seen that race just go green, and because he deserved it. Bell coming down, got fresh tires, still struggled to pass Logano with fresh tires. Still just had to drive out of his mind
Yeah,
to get by
driving way up in the
Logano with
corner,
fresh
which
tires.
is good short track racing. But I mean, yeah,
I
they
thought,
pushed the
and
issue.
that was we were sitting towards turn one. I didn't see anything foul with that move. I really didn't.
No,
I didn't
The
That's
only
I
just
didn't
Joey
see
the only
being
anything.
Joey.
I
the only
didn't
person
see
that saw
anything
it,
in that move. I didn't see anything in that move that nobody else had done the rest of the night. I
no,
mean, Joey in lap traffic. I thought it was 100% fair, and
yeah,
I didn't hear Joey's comments until the next day. And then I was like, "Are you kidding me?" Because I
yeah,
mean, he didn't look. He goes in there and he dumps him. Cry all you want. Like you go in there and you just take it. He didn't take him out. He didn't door him into oblivion. He went in there and he rubbed him a little bit. I
yeah.
don't have a problem with that at all. But as far as Wilkesboro goes, a 400 lap race, sign me up. I'll go watch it. I think it'd be fantastic. All star race. I think it fits right in. Great crowd, great atmosphere, great racing. Um, I loved every second that we were there. But I really do think as this place ages, tire wear is going to be better, going to be even better.
I'll
And
say as a Penske fan, I didn't see anything wrong with the Bell move either. He passed. I mean, that short track racing is part of it. It's not like he just slammed him into the fence, destroyed him. He was
Yeah.
trading paint. That's part of it. It was for $1 million. I don't really understand why he was mad because he would have done the same thing if the shoe was on the other foot. That's to me, that's part of it. I'm like, bro, why are you mad?
I can tell you why he's mad because there's a little switch in Joey's paint job of his helmet that says normal dickhead. As soon as that switch goes up, he plugs in the air hose, his brain turns off. I mean, Joey
yeah,
Joey is one of the most ruthless motherfuckers behind the wheel I've ever seen. And I love it. I love him for it. He makes racing interesting.
that's
But
what
Yeah.
makes him
he
good.
he can dish it out, but that man cannot fucking take it.
Uh-uh.
Now,
No.
did he not recant that a little bit? So he
he
Yeah.
made the
tried
statement.
to.
He was interviewed on that Monday, I think, and he was like, "Well, I looked at it and it wasn't that bad." But out of the
Yeah.
car, he was mad as a hornet.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
And I'm
but
okay with that, but because, you know, unlike see when Joey moved Truex to get into the playoffs in 2018 to make the final four, to me what I saw Bell do was absolutely no different. He didn't
Mm,
wreck him. He still was able to continue on. He didn't lose a bunch of spots and he didn't tear up his car. There was nothing wrong with that. He did
yeah.
exactly what Joey did at Martinsville in 2018. He pushed him up out of the way without destroying his car, no issues whatsoever. That's clean
Well,
short track racing in my mind. That's like a perfect statement. I would
well,
love to
unlike
see a 400-mile race there, but I don't want stage cautions in it because if you start putting
No.
in stage cautions, you're not going to get what we saw because you're not going to have the tire degradation that we saw by having the longer runs. They're going to stop it before the tires fall off, and we can't make the tires soft enough to fall off sooner. So
Correct me if I'm
unless the
wrong.
horsepower thing works. So go
Were
ahead.
these the reds? Without the red lining, of course, but these were the reds from Richmond, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I'm
These were
pretty
the
sure.
softest tire we've
So
got so far.
that was the soft. Okay, so this was the softest tire they had, and they were fine. No
Yep. And
blowouts, no tire.
yeah, and they
I
worked great. So I think if you either have to make the stages longer if you were going to do a full field race there, because I think more cars on the track, obviously, you get more racing because you'd have more obstacles you'd have to work through lap traffic that would help you with that. And then if they do add horsepower like they're talking about potentially, and we come back
you
there,
wear the right rear out.
yeah, you'll wear that right rear out, you'll wear the
You have the
sides
potential
out.
to at least.
Yeah.
yeah. And
I think a 300 lapper would be okay because you ran 300
400,
laps at New Hampshire for a while. So I think
400,
if you made a
400,
300 lap
400,
event would be okay.
400.
Yeah,
It'd have to be
I just
400 because it's not a mile track.
no, I'm fine with that too.
I
what is it,
don't
301 now?
Yeah,
yeah.
we go the extra
But
mile.
I'm okay with
I
the race
gotta
being
say,
shorter if the racing's good. I don't really care. Like, I don't think we have to have all the 400 and 500 miles we had anymore because we've got the one pinnacle of endurance and speed with the 600. I'd be okay with it at being at 300 because then it makes it fits in a nice little box. You can watch it. It'll be over fairly quick. You know, if you put 40 cars on there, you're going to have more cautions anyway, so you're still going to end up with probably like whatever presented at North Wilkesboro 320, 20 laps of extra shit, probably. Between the red, white, and green checkered, nonsense of wrecking everybody. So where
Before
they
I,
all of a sudden find that switch and go to dickhead mode and wreck each other. So
I'm gonna have to bail here in a minute.
yeah.
So
But that was the
uh,
last thing. Just wanted to go back and briefly hit on that because last weekend, sorry everybody, was my daughter's graduation. So it was a very busy, hectic week for we had the party followed by the actual walk at the stage and the event. So just couldn't find the time and then prepping to come out here. So but I'm glad
I just
like you said, they're doing the tickets again. So I'm glad. I think it's served very well for us so far as an all-star race and it keeps getting better. If we can just get Fox to get their head out of their ass with the pre-manufactured garbage, we'll end
make
up with
prime
Come on,
primary,
more
Prime. Come on, Prime.
prime
make
for
Prime for
prime,
prime,
primary.
make
prime for
prime
primary.
primary. Hey, before we get off here, I just want to throw a couple things out there. I think they need to alternate the fucking who does the All Star race as far as SMI or ISC.
Okay.
It needs to be at the beginning of the fucking season.
Okay.
So this would make
Wow.
North Wilkesboro. Well, you say no, but they've destroyed the fucking Clash. So what's the point of the Clash anymore? Make the Clash the All Star race,
Yeah, they're
and make
essentially
North
the
Wilkes
same race. So
make,
we just
make
need one.
yeah, make North Wilkesboro a fucking points race, and then move the All Star race around.
I'd be okay with that. I think Joe
That
Buck proposed that we have 27 regular season races and then a 10 race run to the end.
you
And
don't need that.
we
You
just
don't
have
need an out and
one.
out. I mean, I don't necessarily need. I mean, we can lose a race somewhere. Like I said, I Vegas honestly does. I don't think needs two races, but that's me. And there's not very many West Coast races, and I don't think Vegas needs two. We need to find another racetrack out here somewhere.
Yeah, it's called Kentucky. Oh, sorry. Sorry. I didn't mean to say
It
that
used
out
to be
loud.
called California, but they offered them too much money and they tore that son of a bitch down.
Well, I was
Yeah,
trying to say we were talking about the track rubbering in and aging up. I think this track shows yet again variable banking is what every track needs. When you repave a track, you need to pave it with three different bankings within the track so that the racing is better.
Yep,
You have
two
top
to three
lane,
degrees of
middle lane.
separation allows that,
Yep.
whether it's a flat track or a
Yeah.
high
I
speed.
mean, this track is flat, and it's still you got two, three wide racing all around the track because of that, and they need to keep doing that when you repave these tracks because Kansas, Homestead, and now Wilkesboro all have it, and it's amazing racing. So
Yep. Anything else y'all want to hit on before we wrap it up?
Denny's a moron saying that North Wilkesboro doesn't deserve or shouldn't have a points race.
Well, I mean, I
I'm
agree.
just happy to be there. I'm just happy to be there.
He's being bitter.
Yep. I'm
Hearing like
he
junk
doesn't
all
want to
night.
have a points race because he sucks there.
The
It
Coke
was
600,
terrible.
the Coca Cola, and I think Ross Chastain said it perfectly. The World 600 needs to be 110, 110, and 180 fucking laps instead of 100 lap stages.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be good with that.
Put
Yep.
the fucking put some strategy back in the goddamn race.
Yep, the last
Yeah.
part, yeah.
It's the longest race of the season for a reason. The
I do
strategy is
I
agree.
supposed to fucking.
I've felt that it should be 100, 100, 200.
Because everybody did the same things. 50 laps, pit, stage break, pit, 50 laps, pit, stage break, pit. Everybody did the same thing. So I'm with you guys. Absolutely. Give me three stages, make them have to make a decision in stage three. I'm fuel mileage decision, tire decision, whatever you got to do.
Well, they're working on a schedule right now. Do you foresee them going back to the Bank of America 500 or 400 or whatever, and us going to the Charlotte Roval or Oval instead of the Roval going forward?
I know I
They did
talk
a
a lot.
poll, and it is hugely go oval. Go back to the oval.
I feel like this
90%.
affects me because I'm the guy buying the ticket to go.
Yeah.
The the charisma of the Roval is gone.
Yeah.
When they brought the Roval in from a spectator standpoint, the grandstands were a little, even though it was inside the chase, the stands were getting a little low when they brought the Roval in, and it was a gimmick. They absolutely were like, "Look, we got to do something," and I feel like they thought they were going to lose that race. I really do. I feel like they were on the verge of losing their second date, and so Marcus Smith goes, "How do we keep a second race at Charlotte? I know. Let's turn it into a road course." The very first, the very first Roval, 2018 place was packed. I'm telling you, it was absolutely stuffed to the gills. The infield was packed. The top Ford Terrace was packed. The whole bottom section was packed because everybody wanted to see what it was like.
Well, it's easy to
Well,
pack
we're
the infield when they use half of it for the racetrack.
well. I mean, I'm telling you though,
I
but
know,
the
I
No,
campers
but
that
I
they did
mean,
have,
the first
the
year's
campers
race
that they
was
did,
very compelling. I mean, they all wadded them in there in the fucking
and
first turn,
and
the
it
spin out
had
coming
that
to the
right,
win, and yep.
and so that made
I'll see you guys later, though,
2019.
man.
See ya.
Oh,
Have a good one, guys.
Hey, Chris.
see, bud. 2019's was the same way. You
Yep.
had all that charisma from the previous year. So I do think it's lost it though. The last couple years, just this car just doesn't provide the best road course racing. And when you have the great races at Kansas, the great races at Homestead, the great race that we just saw at Charlotte for the 600, man, it is hard as a fan not to say, bring me back the oval. I
And
personally think that the road course ran its course. It did what they wanted it to do. It brought chaos to the playoffs. It brought fans back into the grandstands because they were bored with what Charlotte was offering. It saved it. I'll be honest with you. I think it saved Charlotte's second date. I really do.
Yeah.
Having said that, now we're back in that same boat. We want to save the second date at Charlotte. Now we got to go back to the Oval.
and with that, there are people clamoring if you bring it back to the oval, they are talking about rotate. They're going to rotate the finale. You could bring the finale to the Charlotte Oval, and it
Absolutely.
would be a phenomenal race.
And I'll be the
Homestead,
first one to
Charlotte,
I'll be the first
Vegas.
one to buy a ticket.
Phenomenal
If you wanted
crowd,
to
too.
make if you wanted to make the Charlotte Oval different than the Coke 600, you could even take it, all right, you back it down to a 500-mile race, and then you split it in half and award double points. Two 250 lap hard races in the playoffs at that track. And now the time constraints, you're pushing that much harder. They're already racing their ass off there on the oval because I don't think it's a problem with the Roval layout. I mean, I think that's why they messed with that one knife, basically 180-degree hairpin they added last year to try and spice it up because this car just doesn't run good on road courses. It didn't run well at the Roval. It hasn't run well at Sonoma. It
Anywhere.
hasn't run well at Road America. It hasn't run well anywhere. It only looked good because of what SVG was able to do in the wet to the dry at Chicago. Otherwise, there hasn't been a good road race with this car yet, in my mind, that I can go
No.
back and be like, damn, that was amazing. So, for the time being, until they fix this car, I think they should go back and give people what they want, and the goal should be to put the best product on track, whatever the track configuration that is, that you can. In this case, you have options. And if you have the choice for next year's schedule and they're building a schedule right now and you could put it on the oval, you should put it on the oval. If you're worried about oversaturation of the 600 and a 500-mile race, fine, split it into two 250s. IndyCar does a double points race, and it just makes them race that much harder. There's double the points available in a weekend. Put 10 playoff points out there available. You think you're not going to get a hell of a race in the playoffs when you could not one punch your ticket, but two people could punch their ticket in a weekend to the next level? You know,
And we've showed that we can do it. We've
yep,
shown that you can run a race on a Saturday and then turn around and line them back up on a Sunday.
yep,
So they can't,
yep.
and
We did it at
especially with
Pocono.
it being
Yep,
what Pocono did it at Michigan.
yep.
Yeah, Harvick won both Michigan races. So,
Yep.
yeah, I think it goes back. I'll be anxious to see what the announcement is. Most of the time, Charlotte likes to make their announcements to the crowd the day race day.
Mhm.
I'll be anxious to see what comes over the intercom come October or
I
whenever they get
agree.
going.
I'm
Hopefully the
hoping.
schedule is out before October. They've been pushing it way too late the last few
I
years.
agree. I hope it is. I really do. I know a lot of times there's network deals and this, that, and arguments and agreements between ISC and SMI and NASCAR. I hope we're not headed to another September, October schedule announcement. I really hope it's
Yeah.
not that late. So,
I I'm hoping we go back to the oval. Because for the same reason, your primary reason you pointed out, Chip, at the very beginning. I think it's lost its luster. And I think if you continue to run down this path, you run just as big a risk of losing it as you did when the cars weren't running so well on the mile and a half several years ago before you had to go to the Roval. And now that you've got this car that doesn't just run well, it excels. Like its bread and butter is the mile and a half. So for the time being, you should cash that check as long as you can because it's not a guarantee that it's going to stay that way. You know,
yep,
one rule change, one evolution, and it's gone. So I would go back to it while you can. Like they finally decided to start giving us more short tracks after they fucked up the car, and now nobody wants to watch them because they're not good. So,
yep.
And see, now I think we have too many road course races.
yep. But when
I
we have
mean,
the Gen 6 car put on a phenomenal race at short tracks, put on a phenomenal race at road courses, and most of the time put on really good racing at the mile and a half. Some were left some area to be desired from time to time, but for the most part, I mean, when you'd have Martin Truex Jr. go out there and spank the field at the Martin Truex Jr. 600 or the whatever, but that's going to happen. That Larson did it. What's the damn difference? Uh,
Yep.
you know, it's just who's doing it. But right now, this car, and it's the way it runs, we should be taking every advantage. Letting Chicagoland sit, Kentucky sit, tearing down Fontana, and running the Roval, all awful decisions.
Yep.
So that's all I got, guys. And with that, I'm going to go to dinner.
Yeah.
Anything y'all got left, or we good? All right.
I'm good.
I'm glad we were all able to
Good.
get together. We haven't been able to get everybody on here in a while, so I enjoyed it. Great show, gentlemen.
Missing Kevin
And
again.
yep, well, somebody's got to run that diecast business. So
Yep.
we'll get into that another day about the tariffs. Now, that's a separate discussion I'd like to have. Like if y'all saw I got to go to dinner, but I guess the court overturned his tariffs and said they weren't legal, but that's a power handed by Congress, so they may get reversed completely. So that'll be interesting to see what happens there, just for
Yep.
all of commerce, not just NASCAR stuff, but everything we buy.
Everybody.
So, all right. With that, everybody have a good evening. Thanks everybody for watching, and that's our show. Till
Yeah.
next time. Bye, guys.
See you all.